top 10 hottest comics of the week based off of Cover Price's data. That's right, real data. We are not sponsored by Cover Price, but we take their top 10 list that they release on a Monday, and we dissect it on our show on Friday. But the way we do it, we run through the top 10. But from there, Chris picks his 3 most interesting books from that list and tells you why. Now, interesting does not mean it's good, does not mean it's bad, but it's interesting for a specific reason. And we're going to get into it, the 3 of us. We're going to dive right into this list right now. We're going to have at it. And I'm just wasting time so I can get to the image to bring it up right now. And then I got to read it off. All right, here we go. At number 10, we have Marvel Special Edition number 15. This right here is the first appearance of Shang-Chi. Number 9 is Ghost Rider 28, Midnight Suns. People keep speculating. At number 8, Werewolf by Night is number 1. Werewolf by Night number 1. People are really hot on this book because there is a rumor that there will be a Halloween special with Jake Gomez, the second Werewolf by Night. At number 7, we have New Avengers number 7. This is the first appearance of the Illuminati. I'm not quite sure why it made the top 10 list. It did months ago because there was a rumor that they would be putting this together in the MCU. We shall see. At number 6, we have Spawn 321. Bjorn Baron's Virgin variant, 1 out of 50. That's a beautiful looking cover. Number 5, we have Nocterra, number 1. Number 4, we have Oblivion Song, number 1. Number 3, we have Nocterra, number 1, the glow in the dark variant. At number 2, we have Nocterra, number 1, the Jock variant. And at number 1, we have Star Slayer, number 2, the first appearance of the Rocketeer. I loved that movie back in the 90s. I really did, guys. All right, Chris, it's an interesting week. It is dominated by Marvel with a bit of independence, if you want to call Spawn an independent.
Yeah. Can you bring the top 10 up real quick?
Sure thing.
So I just want to say, I usually always give big shout outs to indies, but I'm going to tell you all right now, I don't have any of these option books on my top 3 because quite honestly, I'm going to keep repeating myself over and over, but big shout out to everyone who is bigging up on these books when they get optioned. That's all I got to say about that.
Yep. All right, but moving on, though, you got a lot more to say about a lot of other books.
I sure do.
This first book that you find interesting, everybody should find interesting, because I do.
Man, I'm just so hyped about this book right now. My 3rd pick, number 3, Special Marvel Edition, number 15, first appearance of the Master of Kung Fu, Shang-Chi. We had a movie, folks. I don't know about you, but I saw it, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. First time back in the movie theater in over 18 months. And I think it was an overall hit. Now, let's look at the numbers of what this book has been doing. And then I'll talk a little bit about the movie and what it means for the future of this book. We had a 68% increase in sales. So the increase in sales throughout the week wasn't that much, but keep in mind, there's been a lot of hype on this book for the last, couple of months. Since, the first trailer dropped and so forth. So I'm sure that increase has been increasing every week. But get this, we had a high CGC 9.8 sale, $20,050.
Jeez.
$20,000 for a 9.8. Are we good? Are we good calling this a Bronze Age, a blue chip key? Can we put this book in the same category as your Hulk 181 and your Tomb of Dracula 10 and your Amazing Spider-Man 129s? Can we do that, please? All right, check this out, though. And the last record high for a CGC 9.8 was back in June, and it sold for $15,700. So that's a nice big jump there. That's a 20% increase in sales, increase in value, that is. A high raw sold for $1,900 on August 27th. Now, multiple grades. Here's what I want you all to take in. Multiple grades, meaning CGC grades. If the book is graded in a 4.0, 6.5, 8.0, 8.5, 9.0, so forth. There's multiple grades out there that have seen higher sales since or post movie release. All right. But overall, in all the other grades, the book is holding that fair market value that it's been at since the hype of the trailers and the previews and whatnot. I'm bringing this up because I think it is a strong indicator of a couple things. Of one, how well this movie was received. This movie has a 98% Rotten Tomatoes. I know the viewer scores have been just absolutely amazing too. I think this movie is being received extremely well, and I think it's keeping the value of this book there where it, and look, I know what's it been? Has it been? It hasn't even been 2 weeks yet. It was last weekend, so it's been just 1 week since the release. Yeah, we'll monitor this. But
I think I wanted to mention something when you guys were talking about it. I also think because we were, especially my husband, he was so excited to watch it because there was a lot of Asian actors that he's been watching since he was little, and they had worked with Jackie Chan. Like seeing some of those actors that that a lot me that I seen have worked with him. And he's the one who mentioned that he feels that they paid a tribute of one of the fight scenes, to Jackie Chan. He's the one who loves all those movies. And
I think, and I want to bring that back to the character being an influence from Bruce Lee, and I think the movie really did. I mean, they touched on, I think it was very well done in terms of representation and representing, the Asian culture in so many different ways. Not to get too deep into that right now, but I just think it was a very well done movie for a character that this character has such a great potential to broaden the audience. I mean the audience in terms of the people wanting the books. We look at what Jim Lee had said. Last year at DC Fandom, when he talked about DC moving into that global market, the international market. And it's not just about, when we talk about reputation and representation matters, and we know that here in the US, and with comic books having such a large fan base and cultural upbringing in the US, and we talk about, African American, the Black folks in the US and their history, Asian Americans, Latino Americans, all the melting pot that is here and how we can represent that, even, women or LGBTQ or whatever the case may be. This character speaks to that international audience, even outside of the States. And I have a feeling, look, we can look at this book, stereotypically in a generalized sense, and we can look at the ebb and flow of the market and what books like this do when we get an announcement that a character is going to be in a live action or in the MCU. Then we get the actor cast, then we get the trailer, then we get the second trailer, and then the movie drops. And we follow the ebb and flow. And I'm not going to sit here and feed anybody watching or listening the fact that, go buy this book right now because the movie's out and it's having record-breaking sales after the movie released. That means it's not going to, no, I'm not saying that. The Eternals is coming out. Spider-Man's coming out. Blade's coming out soon. We're going to see, we got all this stuff. We got the Marvels coming out. So eventually, I do believe this book is going to ebb and flow because any proper investment and solid investment on any market is going to see that. And I say that all the time. But I think what we're seeing right now, even if this book cools off, it does its, 45 days, and then it gets pulled to, Disney Plus and so forth. Even though I do feel there's going to be the ebb and flow, I think what's happening right now after the release is an indicator that this book is here to stay. And even with the ebb and flow, this book is from here on out solidified, a Bronze Age blue chip key book. And there's no going back to that. And I think if anybody thinks that this book is going to see an insane substantial drop, I don't think they're really understanding the momentum that this character is going to have moving forward.
Yep.
Yeah, especially for people that are not into comic books and now watching the movie, they're going to want to find this book. And where they're going to go? They're going to go to eBay. So, they're going to try to pay because they don't, I guess they don't know the market and stuff like that. So they're going to pay good money for it. And like you said, if it's here it's here to stay and it's going to keep going. So people are going to want to buy this book.
I think this is a good example. By the way, Serge Henderson saw this in a 50-cent bin a few years ago, and he didn't get it. I think this is just another great example of Feige being able to pick from lesser-known characters and creating hits, knowing and believing in these characters, and then people jumping on these books after the fact. They've been there. Serge Henderson, perfect example. They've been there, but they're not going to be there anymore. They are not. He has made a mark, and he is not. They have not premiered in China yet. Okay, so he is going to be a global character that will usher in a bunch of other global characters, and I'm very excited about it because it was an MCU film. I get it. I don't know if we're hitting the point of oversaturation, but it felt fresh to me. You know, it felt really good, and I was very happy with how they executed and what they produced. So, again, guys, I agree with you guys 100%. Lucy, people are going to be seeking this who are not huge collectors. This happens all the time. Chris, this is not going to go down. It's not going to have a significant drop. Like, if you want to get on this, maybe wait till it cools off a little bit, I guess. But he's in the future. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, and I don't want to give away spoilers here, but I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a quick cameo in the Eternals, because there could be a connection there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there could be, and we know that he's going to be back in other, no matter what. The only thing, like I said, you guys, and this is where people I think misunderstand. Anytime anything has a slight drop, and you guys you have to remember, fair market value. Excuse me. Fair market value is a moving slide. And even when it's moving, at any given point, it's still only an estimate. And you got to understand, especially with older books and slab books, especially 9.8s or higher grades, the census that we have is so small that one sale that's slightly off can move the needle of that fair market value a good amount. So, so say like right now, we just had a high of $20,050 for a 9.8.
Mm-hmm.
Well, say next month another one sells for $17,000. If somebody comes on YouTube or anywhere and says, "Oh, look, see, yep, it's a bubble," or that book wasn't going to stay hot, I'm going to sit and tell you, are you serious? Do you even understand what that means? First off, $3,000 out of a $20,000 book isn't such an extreme drop from a record high. And keep in mind, 17,000 would still hypothetically be higher than the old record high, which was 15,700. So, at a book at that high of price, it's going to fluctuate no matter what. So, again, I don't think this is necessarily a good time to buy when you're looking at a fair market value, because, again, cool-off periods happen. Be a smart and educated buyer, have patience. And I'm going to say this like I always say. I would not go. The 9.8s is where they get me. And I talk about it a lot. I'm not going to dive into it now because we got to go on to my number 2 book. But 9.8s, I would much better try to find a high, even though it's a Bronze Age book, I try to find a high grade raw maybe and pay the money there to try to get those higher grades. Because that's the one thing where I just personally, I'm not, you know what else I would do? Last thing I'll say on this, I pay, and again, I don't know what a 9.6 sold for, but say a 9.6 just sold for 10K. I'd rather buy a 9.6, spend half of what they're spending on a 9.8, crack it, have a few $100s of a budget to try to send it back and forth. I've talked about this before. I'll send it to CGC 8, 9, 10 times, and I guarantee you one of those times is going to come back a 9.8, and I just save myself roughly $9,000 to $10,000. So that's just me, though.
All right, we do need to move on to this next book. Before we do, Vinny Whitlock, hey guys, sorry I'm late. We say this every week. You guys never need to apologize to us. We are grateful for you spending any sort of time with us. So again, don't apologize, but you should actually apologize for apologizing.
Yes.
Just to say that. All right, moving on. What is your second most interesting book of the week off of this list, Chris?
All right, my second book is very interesting. it's a positive interesting, but it has a lot in there. And that's the New Avengers number 7. First appearance of the Illuminati. This is an interesting book because I believe it's the buy before the hype train, which is good in my humble opinion, because if you guys watch my channel and you watch my top 10 Bronze Age Marvel or top 10 horror, all these videos that I do talking about these books, you guys know that I often talk, the majority of books that I talk about are what I call sleeper keys, or keys that have potential to blow up, but that are still easy on the average collector's wallet, right? We can sit here and talk about these blue chip keys all day. I talk about books like this because I'm always about being ahead of the curve. So you can look at this book being on this list. Oh, well, it's just speculation. That's the only reason why it's on this. Well, would you rather an official announcement happen and then people go out and pay double or triple or twice what it's selling for now? Just because you waited to get that announcement? Come on, guys. We're always about being ahead of the curve, and we're about finding books that are solid right now before we get any of those announcements or even real official rumors. I know there's been some rumors out there, but they've been very, very minimal. All people are doing with this book right now is saying, oh, I'm seeing things in the MCU happen to where it could lead to this. And hey, that's a smart collector, right? Now let's look at these numbers. It had a 149% increase in sales throughout the week. This is what's weird about this book. The most recent CGC 9.8 sale, $300, and that was on the 8th. That was 2 days ago. The previous high was in August at $339, best offer accepted. So it was a bit lower, but I'm still going to estimate above the 300 range. So probably, similar range here. But get this. Yesterday, a 9.8 CGC sold for $189. That's strange. It's all over the place. Now get this. A high 9.6 sold for $125, best offer accepted on September 4th. On the 5th, a raw copy described as an eBay seller is, this is a 9.6. It was a raw copy. That was just their description. Sold for $130. So a raw copy with the eBay seller declaring it to be about a 9.6 sold for higher less than 24 hours after an actual CGC 9.6 sold for a 125 best offer accepted, meaning lower than 125. The book is all over the place. So this is my advice for you all. There's no reason to jump on this book with the FOMO. There's no reason for me, if I'm in the market for this book and I'm looking to buy a 9.8, which I hardly ever am, I am not going to pay anything close to the $300. Now remember, $300, 9.8 sold for on the 8th. There was a couple other $300 realm ones over the last month, but there was also more than one that was under the $200 mark as well. I'd be very careful even buying this book in raw. I would be careful of eBay right now or online. Go to your LCSs if you want to spec on this book to be ahead of the curve, because hey, we might find out that they do something with Illuminati in the MCU. I can probably guarantee you that there's some shops out there, there's some people selling this book for a decent price in a decent grade that's going to speak to you, and you're going to be able to sit there and be educated on it to where you can sit and say, that's a deal I'm willing to make, and then you can go ahead and make that deal. But these crazy numbers right now, it's too wacky for me to sit and justify paying over $300 for this book, or even $130 for a raw copy.
I don't understand why it's made it into the top 10 list. It did months ago when there was a rumor or what have you.
A really, really baseless rumor too.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's back. It perplexes me. I don't know if you have any insight on this book, Lucy, as well.
Yeah, no, I have not. I wonder if maybe somebody talked about it on one of the YouTube channels or something. Yep. That they have like some kind of theory, but
exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
By the way, Dan De La Torre just started following you on Mama Comics. I don't know why everybody else isn't at Mama Comics. Make it happen, everybody, or else you're missing out. I'll tell you that right now. But back to the top 10 hottest comics of the week. our last book that Chris will be talking about. This one's interesting. I dig this one, Chris. I really did. What do you got?
It is interesting. And it's the Eternals #2 that I just got back from CGC. I did this last week too. I'm just kidding, guys. My #1 pick was so interesting to me. It was such a nostalgic pick for me.
Yes.
I'm with you, Jeff, because you made a comment on it. My #1 pick is the #1 book on the list, Star Slayer, #2. First appearance of the Rocketeer. Let's look at some numbers and then we'll talk about this book. 173% increase in sales over the week. High CGC 9.8, 565. That's money book. That's money right there. Prior to the Disney announcement, a high 9.8 sold for $330. That's a 71% increase in value in the recent high sale. A high raw sold for 75. So here's the thing. I remember seeing this movie. And I was like in Colorado or something with my family. And I don't know if I think I saw it in a drive-in, but I remember being on this trip with my family and going and seeing this movie. And it was kind of like nothing I ever seen before. It was a bit of a mashup for me between like Indiana Jones meets Dick Tracy meets like your average superhero type of a film. And, with like the kind of noir vibe that it had. I really love that movie. I know I watched it again since then, probably a few times. I haven't watched it in a while. Now that I'm talking about it, I want to watch this movie again. But I'm excited about them revamping. I used to be very anti, like, oh, why do they need to reboot something if the classic is so classic? And I'm like, well, guess what? The classic's always going to be there. Let's just tell the story again and see how they do it, and then you can have both, right? I'm excited for whatever Disney's going to do. Disney Plus, I do believe it's a Disney Plus film, not a series, but a full-length feature film. And it shot this book through the roof. So, again, 71% increase in sales. Again, we're looking at 9.8s here. I'm always going to talk about these 9.8s. Just, I personally would absolutely stay away from them. If you're going to buy a slab book, I bet there's some people watching right now when I say this that they're like talking mad crap about me probably when I do the 9.6 thing. Go buy a 9.6, send it, press it clean and send it to CG a few more times. Watch. Yeah. I don't know. That's just
like I always say, don't buy. I don't like to grade my comics. I like to keep them the way they are. So I know a lot of people are different. So
you're saying you don't like to slab your comics, right?
No,
right.
No.
That's fair. Everybody's got a different. It does seem that the 9.8s are a hot commodity these days, and those are coming from people that are investing that are outside the hobby too. Like people are really looking, especially when the pandemic started. There are a ton of rich people that just wanted to, kind of invest in something else. And
I've been kind of contemplating. I'm like, because I have my prison one, which I like better, and I've been contemplating selling this one. I'm like, after this one, we'll go to Disneyland.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, you're a true fan of the series, and that's what matters. And however so. But going back to this Star Slayer 2, I thought The Rocketeer was magical when I saw it in the theater. I'm not quite sure if it holds up these days. I do remember loving that film, and it's going to be interesting. I don't know if it's a reboot is what they're calling it. Not sure if it's going to be a series or a film or what have you. But again, I'm excited for this, and a lot of people are as well, as you can see from purchasing this Star Slayer #2. So, right there, though, that ends the top 10 hottest comics of the week. It'll be a new, interesting list next week, and Chris is going to pick his 3 most interesting books from that list.